Forbes Books presents Sustainable Leadership and Disruptive Growth with David Radlow. Transformation for a new and better world. Here's David.
I'm back with retired Brigadier General and CEO of Tata Leadership Group, Anthony Tata. He's also a best-selling author, and we'll get into that later. But first, Tony, in part one, we talked about the threats abroad, including Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, and now I want to focus a little closer to home. FBI Director Christopher Wray says that we are in a heightened situation, and he is very concerned about the 2 million people that have entered our country illegally in the past 3 years. Could you kindly comment on security of our southern and northern borders? We all know what happened on October 7th when Iran backed Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists brutally and barbarically attacked Israeli citizens. How concerned are you that this could happen here?
Yeah, I'm very concerned. I wish that Chris Wray and his forces in the FBI would focus on actual threats to America as opposed to PTA moms and Catholics and political opponents of the president, which is obvious what's happening right now. And the border, the lack of support for border patrol, the customs folks, it reminds me, and I've done a lot of border operations as a commander in combat, whether that was Bosnia or Kosovo or Afghanistan. And what happens, you can never quote unquote seal the border, but you can have pretty good situational awareness, and you can position forces to collect up people where the natural, you can create and this is what the wall was intended to do, is create canalization, the channeling of people into certain locations so you can prevent them from coming in or collect them up and return them to where they from whence they came. So there's a couple of things. The Trump administration did a very good job of engaging the Central American countries, particularly Mexico, and remain in Mexico and working the processing on that side of the border so that the law didn't kick in, that we couldn't get the person out of the country. And so now, my work is, there's commensurate level of incompetence there as within Afghanistan. I think there's two equally disturbing things happening there. And I say that the border is probably the fourth intelligence failure. You had the intelligence failure in Afghanistan with the Taliban coming through, unpredictable fashion. It was totally predictable. You had Ukraine, Russia. Remember, the Biden administration offered Zelensky a ride out on the night of the invasion, thinking that it was going to be 3 days and Russia would own Ukraine. And Zelensky famously said, "Yeah, I don't need a ride, I need ammo." And he rallied his troops, his country, and the world to support him. Now, imagine if Trump had done that. The headline would have been, "Trump does Putin's bidding to decapitate Russian or Ukrainian military prior to invasion." But Biden gets a free pass on that. The third intelligence failure is Hamas, Israel. We have intelligence sharing with Israel, and obviously we missed that. And now I believe the ongoing fourth intelligence failure is the border, because we just don't know what's going on down there, and I'm very concerned about it. The northern border, I think, that's a concern too. Lone wolves, probably more of a threat up there, but the mass migration and this current illegal immigrants coming in is beginning to really impact the big cities where they are being taken. So it's a foreign policy issue, it's a national security issue, and it's a domestic issue.
Well, following up on that, turning on the funding side of that, there's currently, we're having to pay billions for illegal housing, food, medicine, schooling, and fighting the cartels. And then in addition to that, We've got to deal with the fentanyl problem, all coming from the border. And more than that, we're sitting here with a strategic debt problem. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that the U.S. has $708 billion in debt payments, 1/3 of the total world, with 100% of GDP now and projected at 150% of GDP 2032. What kind of strategic threat is our economic debt situation, whether it be guns and butter?
Yeah, so I mean, it's another issue that I think has been exacerbated by the policies of this administration, and the enormous debt that we're in with some of these, Inflation Reduction Act and other types of programs that are significant, and the handouts. I think that creates this burden that we'll just never be able to get out from under. And when you think about how we are spending our money, certainly Homeland Security, Department of Defense needs to be buttressed, while some of these other entities are misappropriating, in my view. The funds are being misappropriated to some of these other entities. So I think our economic position is as weak as our national security position, and I think it invites aggression around the world because remember, Reagan, bankrupted the Soviet Union. That's how he broke them, by building out the military and creating the arms race that they just frankly couldn't keep up with. And so in a way, China, Russia, Iran, you can throw North Korea in there maybe, are interested in keeping this pressure on us. So we just keep ratcheting up and spending money that we don't have, and perhaps hit that tipping point a la the Soviet Union back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s.
Concerning and troubling. As we turn right now to your outstanding leadership for your military career, General Tony, under fire, your heroic and meritorious service is recognized by a Bronze Star, Distinguished Service Medal, Combat Action Badge, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, and you survived to tell about it. I understand your humility, but would you be kind enough to share with our audience the battles and circumstances that caused the military to appropriately honor and recognize you?
Well, Dave, my military career, I'm very proud of my military career and the units in which I was privileged to serve, such as the 82nd Airborne, where it commanded a battalion of paratroopers, 101st Airborne, where it commanded a brigade, roughly 4,000 air assault troopers, the Strike Brigade, 10th Mountain Division. I was a deputy commanding general. Lloyd Austin was the commanding general, our current Secretary of Defense, and deployed to combat with the 10th Mountain Division in Afghanistan. And it's really the men and women around me that make anything possible. Everything is a team sport, and the military is not a sport, but I use that as a metaphor. Some of my personal heroes are men and women I was under fire with, in places like the Korengal Valley. Sergeant Vile got shot right next to me as we were under fire. My helicopter was actually on fire. The left engine had been shot out. And that entire scenario, whether it was there or somewhere else, the saying used to be, if you want to get shot at, go with General Tata. Because I would battlefield circulate every couple times a week and go to some forward operating base that so that I can understand and the grit and grime of what our troops in the foxhole were dealing with. And I would pull a couple of staff officers with me so they could see that their nightly charts that they were briefing, that maybe they weren't as accurate as they were saying, because the tempo was pretty severe over there, and there were a lot of bad actors, Taliban, Al Qaeda, others trying to get in the mix, and it was certainly my privilege to serve our nation and our Constitution with the men and women that were assigned in the units that I was privileged to lead.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it very much, your service to this nation. If you'd be kind enough to share your number one leadership lesson from your experiences as a commander.
Yeah, so love the people you lead and listen to them. You've got to really have a servant's heart. You have to care more about them than you do yourself. And then, then you've got to be able to pull out of that and make an informed decision. But loving the people you lead and listening to them are probably the two things. You'll never really go wrong from my experience if you're very genuine and authentic in that regard.
Thank you for that. Turning now, if we could, you become a tremendous best-selling author of thrillers being referred to as, quote, better than Tom Clancy, quote, grabs you and does not let go, quote, an author that's been there and takes you to places as frightening as the darkest secrets behind tomorrow's headlines, quote, delivering extraordinary value per proposition to readers. Many of your books are out of stock, awaiting production to overwhelming sales. General, you write with a realism similar to my dad experienced and explaining his young son after nighttime flashbacks at 5:30 a.m. while brushing teeth, the battles of Normandy, Bulge, Pocket, Ramadan, and crossing the Danube under Patton. And my good friend who served near you, Colonel McLaughlin, explained the day's experience and hero ceremonies in Iraq and Afghanistan. And other situations, as we continue to read these fast-paced excitement seen in experienced in this book, award-winning Born series. You write authentically real and overpowering. Can't seem to tell it's fiction. And that's only after about 2,000 pages over this weekend.
Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that.
Are these bestsellers inspired by your outstanding military career and the names were changed to protect the innocent or perhaps at times guilty?
No, I read the newspaper every morning. I get the physical newspaper. I read it every morning, cover to cover. I consume information left and right, and I get ideas. If I read an article, I'm like, oh, that would be an interesting story. And I've always got my characters in my head, whether it's Garrett Sinclair from the Total Empire, Chasing the Lion, Phalanx Code series, or Jake Mahegan from the 6 books in that series. And I visualize these people. A good example is I was at Raleigh when I was Secretary of Transportation or Superintendent, I can't remember which, but I was reading and they showed a picture of the Marcellus Shale that went from kind of the Virginia border all the way down to the Moore County, Pinehurst area. And right in the middle of that map in the newspaper was Sharon Harris nuclear plant. And I thought, fracking, nuclear plant, what could go wrong? And I built an entire story around that, and that's 3 minutes to midnight. So I'm not grinding axes, I'm entertaining. I think that we all have limited entertainment dollars to spend, and I just try to be one of the, if somebody reads a book a week, I just try to be one of the 52 in the lineup that they choose me to spend $10 or $25 if they like a hardcover, $12 or, whatever it is. And then they enjoy that. And then, I get good response. So, some people give me, great reviews, and, most of my books are highly regarded. I get some, people who don't like my politics, and then they just, I assume don't read the book and just give me a review because they don't like my politics. But by and large, the author network that I'm in, the thriller industry, it's just amazing. Great people. And the St. Martin's Press, my publisher, Macmillan, has been enormously supportive of me. And I'm just very grateful to have the opportunity to really fulfill a childhood dream. I thought maybe one book I've had published 16, and I really enjoy the creative process.
It's just truly amazing. It really is. I mean, it's really so inspiring is that every single word, every single paragraph is suspenseful. It really is. It's and I'm not just saying that. It really is. I was up all night reading those books. So at any event, we're moving forward and changing, pivoting a little bit right now. As a board member, we've helped CEO Chris Nowinski of the Concussion Legacy Foundation and Project Enlist, just dedicated to helping with medical research and head-related physical and emotional issues and crisis help for former athletes and veterans. Realize you have been big supporter of the USO Metro DC, North Carolina's Heroes Fund, and the Michael Murphy Foundation. Why do you choose those charities, and how can we help?
Yeah, so presently, I'm an ambassador for Homes for Our Troops, and I have been involved with all those previous institutions mentioned, but am no longer. So I'm an ambassador for Homes for Our Troops. We build homes for our most severely disabled soldiers, whether missing a leg, an arm, traumatic brain injury, and they're ADA compliant homes for the service member and their family. The Metro DC started out when I was still active duty. One of the things I did was I wrote while deployed to process everything that was happening. And so it'd be midnight. I'd crank out a page or two, just to escape for a little while. And so I actually, over, my active duty career, I'd written 2 or 3 books that just in my free time, so to speak, between midnight and 4 and a.m. when I wasn't doing anything. And as I was retiring, I actually landed a book contract. And I did not want anybody to think that I was using my rank, my status, or whatever as a brigadier general to sell books. And so I just gave all the money from the royalties, which was substantial, and I had a kid in college at the time, to the USO Metro DC Hospital Services Fund. Elaine Rogers, the president of the USO Metro, she said, I will make sure that all this money goes to help families coming to visit their wounded soldiers. This was like 08, 09 timeframe. And then the Michael Murphy Foundation, I got asked to participate in that, so I did. And the North Carolina Heroes Fund, I was superintendent and then Secretary of Transportation, North Carolina. I was a public figure of some status there, and being able to, and I was asked to participate in that, and I did, and being able to help North Carolina veterans and active duty servicemen and women when you have Fort Bragg there, now Fort Liberty, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, Camp Lejeune, the Marine Corps Air Station at Cherry Point, you have Coast Guard Base in Elizabeth City. So you had a little bit of everything, and it was a way to really raise money. And so I did fundraising by selling a name to be a character in each of the Jake books. And we'd raise about $5,000 and it would go right to the North Carolina Heroes Fund. So it's been fun to be able to help these charities using my book signings and book parties that I do to, serve a larger cause, which has been what my life has been all about.
That's quite admirable that you're able to weave both the giving back and your books in such a momentous way. If you were going to take a look at General Tony's legacy that you are absolutely most proud of, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, I think being a good dad to my 2 children and my grandchildren. I think helping the people that I led lead productive lives, whether reforming the education systems in Washington, D.C. and Raleigh, Wake County, so that more children, particularly in Raleigh, had access to better programming, particularly low-income students. And then, overall leadership of of every organization, I feel like I mentored and I put people on a path to success that helped them and their family. And I think that's what I'm most proud of. But at the end of the day, when we all hit that golden bridge out, we should be focused on those people around us that we love and that love us. And I just, every day try to be a good citizen and a good person that takes proper care of the people that are important to me.
That sums it up, and it's pretty straight on point. And if you'd be kind enough to share a way that people can find your books and follow up with you as necessary.
Yeah, well, I have a website, ajtata.com, ajtata.com. My books are Barnes & Noble, Amazon, everywhere books are sold. My next book coming out is The Phalanx Code. That comes out in February of 24. It's available for pre-order right now on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. It is the third book in this Chasing a Lion Total Empire called the Garrett Sinclair novel. And certainly you don't have to read them in order. Some people like to do that, but I try to write them all standalone. And yeah, ajtata.com, and you can just click on each book and it takes you right to the website that you, and they're in Audible, they're in Kindle or ebook. So anywhere books are sold.
Okay, well, and that's where I was last night, learning about Captain Cassie Bagwell and what's coming next.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to continue to read.
Cassie's a great character. I loved the female Army Raider School grad. So
okay, thank you very much, General Tony, for taking the time and joining us today. Hopefully, everybody is learned and is a little more brighter, and have opportunities to enjoy themselves as well while they learn.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate being able to speak with your listeners.
Thank you.
To connect with David, go to davidradlow.com. David's book set, The Principles of Cartel Disruption and Secret Stories of Leadership, Growth, and Innovation, are available wherever books are sold. This has been Sustainable Leadership and Disruptive Growth with David Radlow, a presentation of Forbes Books.